Bullies pick on the wrong new black kid, not knowing he's a martial arts prodigy. When Jaden walked into Ridgewood High on his first day, no one saw a threat. Just a quiet, new black kid with secondhand shoes and a beat-up backpack. No loud entrance, no attitude, just silence. But what they didn't see was what he carried inside. The blood of a father who once ruled underground fight rings. And the promise he made to a mother who had spent 17 years keeping him hidden from that world. He was told to never stand out, never fight back, never be seen. But people make a mistake when they confuse silence with weakness. And for Jaden Taylor, the day that mistake was made, everything changed. Story begins directly. The sun hadn't fully risen when Jaden and his mom pulled into their new driveway. A quiet street, neatly trimmed lawns, one of those neighborhoods where everyone watches from behind closed blinds. Jaden stayed in the passenger seat for a moment, staring at the rows of perfect houses. It all felt too clean, too quiet. "This is it," his mom said softly, forcing a smile. "Our fresh start." Jaden nodded but said nothing. He knew that smile. It wasn't for him. It was her way of pretending they'd outrun their past. Again. As they unloaded boxes, he noticed the way she kept checking her phone, how her eyes darted down the street every few minutes, like she expected someone to show up. That night, after they unpacked the basics, her phone rang. Blocked number. She didn't say much, just listened. Her face went pale, and when she hung up, she told Jaden it was a wrong number, but her hands were shaking when she locked every door twice. The next morning, Jaden stood in front of Ridgewood High for the first time. Backpack tight on his shoulders, eyes scanning the giant brick building. He took a breath, whispered to himself, "You've got this," and walked in. The second he stepped inside, he felt it. The stares. The way people paused mid-conversation, just to look at him. New kid, black kid, different. He found his locker and was trying to remember the combination when a stocky senior leaned against the one next to him. Crew cut. Smirk on his face. "New kid thinks he's special," the boy said, loud enough for others to hear. Jaden glanced at him briefly, then turned back to his lock. "Just trying to find my way around." "I'm Ryan," the boy said, that smirk still on his lips. "And this," he added, pointing to a giant walking toward them, "is Chase." Chase looked like a football player straight out of a movie, tall, broad, and all muscle. He didn't say much, just stared. "Nice to meet you," Jaden said calmly, grabbing his books. As he turned to leave, Chase stepped in his path, bumping shoulders hard. Jaden paused, stepped back without reacting. "My bad," he said. Ryan laughed. "First day and already causing problems. Those shoes from the thrift store?" Jaden said nothing. He just walked past. But as he turned the corner, Ryan called out, "This isn't over, new kid." By lunchtime, Jaden had already heard the whispers. He walked into the cafeteria and scanned for an empty spot. Most tables were full, but one had a few open seats. A girl with auburn hair looked up from her book as he approached. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked. She shrugged. "Free country." "I'm Jaden." "Emily," she said. "You're the new kid everyone's been whispering about." "Lucky me," Jaden muttered. She smiled a little. "Don't worry. By next week, they'll find someone else to gossip about." From across the room, Ryan and Chase walked in. When Ryan saw Jaden, he nudged Chase and walked over. "Making friends already?" Ryan said, leaning over their table. "Careful, Emily. You don't want to hang with the wrong crowd." Emily didn't even flinch. "Then maybe you should leave." Ryan's jaw tensed, but he didn't respond. Chase stepped closer to Jaden, knocking over his milk. "Oops," but Jaden moved fast. Too fast. His hand shot out and caught the carton before it spilled. Even Chase looked surprised. Emily stared. What was that? Lucky catch, Jaden said. Ryan wasn't smiling anymore. He signaled to leave. As they walked off, Emily leaned in. Nobody stands up to them like that, she said. I didn't do anything, Jaden replied. Exactly, she said. That's what got to them. Jaden stared at his tray, saying, nothing. But inside, something shifted. They had no idea who they were messing with. And maybe, just maybe, it was time they found out. That night, Jaden sat at the window of his new room, looking out at a neighborhood that didn't feel like it belonged to him. Behind the quiet streets and trimmed hedges, something felt off. Like everything was just pretending to be calm. He thought about what happened in the cafeteria, the milk carton. His hand moved on its own, fast, trained. He wasn't supposed to use it. His mother made him promise. But old instincts didn't just disappear. Downstairs, he could hear her checking the locks again. Once, twice, maybe more. Same routine as always. She was trying to keep them safe from a world that had already taken too much. The next morning, Jaden kept his head down at school. 4 classes, 4 sets of whispers. People looked at him differently now. Not like they feared him, but like they couldn't figure him out. He wasn't scared. He wasn't showing off. He was just there, unshaken. By lunchtime, he sat at the same spot with Emily, who didn't say much at first. She just watched him, like she was trying to solve a puzzle. Then she finally asked, "Where'd you learn to move like that?" Jaden hesitated. "Just reflexes." She raised an eyebrow. "You catch milk cartons with ninja reflexes?" He smiled slightly but didn't answer. Then Ethan, a lanky kid with glasses, came over. "Dude, that was awesome," he said, practically vibrating with excitement. "That dodge yesterday, you shifted like 2 inches and Chase missed by a mile. That's like movie stuff." "I just moved," Jaden said, trying to brush it off. "You moved perfectly," Ethan insisted. "Are you into martial arts?" Jaden shrugged. "Not really," Emily cut in. "Ethan's obsessed with all that. He's probably memorized every Bruce Lee fight scene ever made." Ethan didn't deny it. "I appreciate the art, the discipline. It's more than fighting, you know?" Jaden nodded. That part at least made sense. But just as he was starting to feel like maybe he could breathe a little, Ryan happened. After school, Jaden headed toward the bus stop. The lot was mostly empty. He had his earbuds in, music low. That's when he noticed the group, Ryan, Chase, and 3 others, waiting near the bike racks like they were hanging out. But they weren't laughing. They weren't talking. They were watching him. As Jaden passed, Ryan stepped forward. "Thought you could embarrass me and just walk away?" he said quietly, so no teachers nearby could hear. "I didn't embarrass anyone," Jaden said calmly. "I didn't even touch you." "Exactly," Ryan sneered. "That's what makes it worse." Jaden kept walking. Then a voice called out, "Back off!" It was Emily. She'd followed him out. She stood between him and the group, arms crossed, her voice loud and clear. 5 against 1? Real brave. Ryan narrowed his eyes. "Stay out of this." She didn't flinch. "Or what? You gonna jump me too? I'll be at the principal's office before your dad can cover it up this time." Ryan's jaw twitched. Chase looked unsure. One of the other guys actually stepped back. Ryan pointed at Jaden. "This isn't over, new kid." Jaden didn't respond. As they walked away, Emily shook her head. "You're officially on Ryan Walker's list, and his dad's on the school board. So, yeah, not good." Later that night, Jaden couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the way they circled him, the way Emily stood up for him, how her voice didn't even shake, his mom noticed. "Bad day?" she asked from the hallway. "Yeah," he said. She came in and sat on the edge of his bed. You want to talk about it? He shook his head, but after a long pause, he said quietly, They're pushing, and I'm trying to stay out of it. Like you said, but it's not working. His mother looked tired, really tired, like years of running had finally caught up to her. Promise me, she said, her voice low. You won't fight them, no matter what. I promise, he said, but deep down he wasn't sure he could keep that promise. The next day, things got worse. Someone shoved a fake note into Jaden's locker that said, Go back to where you came from. A few kids laughed. Jaden didn't respond. By gym class, the whispers had turned into rumors. That he had some kind of military training. That he used to be in trouble at his old school. That he'd broken someone's arm once. Jaden ignored it all. Until the gym teacher handed him a pair of gloves and pointed at the punching bag. Just, show us a few hits, the teacher said. Let's see what you got. Jaden didn't want to, but he also didn't want to draw more attention by refusing. So he did what felt natural. 3 strikes, fast, clean. The room went quiet. Even Coach Harris, the PE teacher who barely said a word all semester, walked over and stood beside him. Where'd you learn that? He asked. Nowhere, Jaden said. Harris didn't buy it. He just stared, like he was putting something together. Be careful, the coach said quietly. There are people in this town who notice things like that. Jaden didn't understand what he meant. Not yet. But he would. Soon. That night, Jaden couldn't sleep again. The sound of the wind outside, the way the shadows moved across the wall, everything felt louder than usual. He kept replaying Coach Harris's words in his head. There are people in this town who notice things like that. What did that even mean? Was it just a warning? Or something else? Downstairs, his mom was still awake too. He heard her on the phone, her voice low and sharp. When he quietly crept halfway down the stairs, he caught part of it. No. He's just a kid. I told you, if you come near us again... She paused. Her voice broke slightly. We had a deal. He stays out of it. When she hung up, she sat there for a while, just staring at nothing. Jaden didn't ask her about it the next morning. He didn't have to. He could see it on her face. The fear was back, and not the kind you get from teenage drama or school bullies. This was old, real. At school, things got weirder. He started finding stuff in his locker, a crumpled photograph of a man in a fighting ring, face bloody but standing tall, arms raised. On the back, someone had scribbled an address. Jaden stared at it for a long time. He didn't recognize the handwriting. But the face in the photo? He knew it. It was his father, younger, but the same eyes. At lunch, he told Emily about it in bits and pieces. Not everything, just enough. She listened carefully, her fingers tapping on the edge of her tray. I think someone's trying to tell you something, she said quietly. But why now? And why like this? Ethan joined them halfway through the conversation and looked at the photo. Dude, that address, that's not far from the old industrial zone. Most of those places are shut down. I'm not going, Jaden said quickly. Could be a trap. Or it could be where the answers are, Emily said. Jaden didn't answer. He just folded the photo and put it back in his bag. That afternoon, things took another turn. In math class, right in the middle of a pop quiz, Jaden was called to the principal's office. He thought maybe it was about Ryan. Maybe a teacher saw the harassment. Maybe, for once, someone was going to help. But that hope didn't last long. Principal Thompson, strict and cold as ever, slid a test paper across the desk. This is your trigonometry exam, she said flatly. A+, Jaden blinked. Okay, she slid over another paper. And this is Melissa Warner's, another A+. Word for word. Same steps, same errors. Care to explain? Jaden stared at the papers. I've never even talked to Melissa. Then how do you explain this? I don't. I didn't cheat. She didn't believe him. She didn't even try to. You're suspended for 1 week, she said. Effective immediately. By the time his mom got to the school, Jaden was already waiting outside the office, sitting on a bench like a criminal. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just looked hollow. When they got home, she didn't say much until dinner. Then she finally sat across from him, hands folded tight, and said, "There's something I haven't told you." Jaden looked up slowly. Your dad. He didn't die in a car accident. His fork froze halfway to his mouth. She kept going, voice shaking. He was a fighter, underground, paid fights, no rules. And when he tried to get out, they didn't let him. You said he crashed. I lied. To protect you. From that world. From them. Jaden sat in stunned silence. We've moved. So much because I've been running, changing names, blocking numbers. But now, they've found us again. She looked him in the eye. I need you to promise me something. I already promised, he said quietly. No fighting. I need you to mean it, she whispered. Jaden nodded. But deep down, something had already changed. Because now he knew. This wasn't just about school bullies. It wasn't just about Ryan. There were people out there who knew who he was, who his father had been, people who had been watching, and now they were making their move. Later that night, Jaden opened his bag again and pulled out the old photo. His father, victorious, bruised, bleeding, alive. He flipped it over. The address was still there. He stared at it for a long time, then slowly, deliberately, slipped the folded paper into his pocket. He knew where he had to go next. The next day, Jaden didn't go to school. Suspended. Accused of cheating on a test he didn't even need to cheat on. And yet, the decision was final. Just like that, he was branded a liar. His mother barely spoke as they drove home from the school. Her hands shook on the wheel. The silence between them was louder than the engine. At home, Jaden spent most of the afternoon staring out the window, thinking about that address on the back of the photo. The name on the old garage door had said, Kelly's Auto Parts. But he was starting to wonder if it was ever a real shop at all. By early evening, curiosity had swallowed his caution. His mom was still at work, picking up a second shift. He scribbled a note for her, something vague, just in case she got home early. Then he walked out the door. The address led him toward the edge of town, where the roads stopped pretending to be clean and the buildings stopped pretending to be useful. The houses faded out, the sidewalks cracked. It was a part of Ridgewood no one talked about, not because it was dangerous, but because it felt forgotten. He found the building easily. Kelly's Auto Parts was written in faded red paint, across rusted metal siding, but nothing about it looked like a place where anyone had fixed cars in a decade. Jaden hesitated for a moment. Then he walked inside. The air smelled like dust and old sweat. The lights were dim, but just enough leaked through the cracked windows for him to make out the room. It wasn't an auto shop. It was a fight gym. There were worn-down punching bags, mismatched mats, old gloves piled in the corner. Everything about it looked like it had once been something serious, then abandoned in a hurry. Didn't think you'd actually come. The voice came from the shadows. Jaden turned quickly, his shoulders tense. A man stepped into the light. Older, scar down the side of his face, broad frame, one eye cloudy with age, the other sharp like it could still read a person's entire life in 5 seconds. You're Carter's boy, the man said. You move like him. Same eyes, too. You knew my father? I trained him. Jaden stared. Who are you? Mike Kelly, the man said simply. Name's still on the door, isn't it? Jaden didn't know what to say. You got his instincts, Kelly continued. His calm. But you're carrying something he never had. Someone to protect. That changes how a fighter moves. I'm not a fighter, Jaden said quietly. Kelly let out a dry chuckle. Could have fooled me. You already made a name for yourself at school. That little cafeteria scene's got people whispering. You don't get to hide anymore, kid. Not after that. Jaden shifted uncomfortably. Why did someone leave that photo in my locker? Not me, Kelly said. But someone clearly wants you back in the game. Jaden frowned. What game? Kelly stepped closer, lowering his voice. The kind your father died in. Before Jaden could ask more, his phone buzzed. It was a text, blocked number. Outside, you've got 2 minutes. Jaden's stomach dropped. He looked out through the broken window. There they were, Ryan, Chase, and 3 others from their crew. Spread out across the empty school parking lot like they'd been planning this for days. Jaden clenched the phone. They followed me. Kelly didn't move, just watched him. Then you better figure out what you're gonna do. Jaden walked out slowly. The pavement was cold under his feet, the air heavy like it knew what was about to happen. Ryan stood in the center, arms folded, smirk painted across his face. He showed up, he said, sounding almost surprised. Thought maybe you'd run home to Mommy. Not looking for trouble, Jaden said, keeping his voice even. But you followed me. Yeah, because we're done playing nice, so. Cracked his knuckles. The others started spreading out. They were forming a circle, 5 against 1. Jaden scanned their positions. He wasn't panicking. He was calculating. He'd been trained to avoid this. His mother told him never to use it. Never fight unless there was no other choice. But right now, there was no choice. The first swing came from his left, a wild punch. That would have landed if Jaden hadn't stepped just an inch to the right. His footwork was smooth, precise. He didn't hit back, just moved. Another tried from behind. He ducked low and the boy tumbled forward. Ryan stepped in next, fast and angry. Fight back, he yelled. Jaden didn't. Not yet, he slipped under. A punch and pivoted, then blocked a kick without even flinching. They kept coming. But he kept moving. No strikes, no punches, just perfect controlled defense. From a distance, it looked like magic. But up close, it was years of discipline, years of holding back. One attacker tripped over his own feet. Another fell trying to grab him. Jaden's breathing stayed calm, focused. He wasn't fighting. He was teaching them that he didn't have to. That. His silence was never weakness. And just when Ryan rushed in again, head lowered, ready to tackle, bright headlights lit up the lot. A car horn blasted. Everyone froze. A familiar voice called out from the car. Enough. Coach Harris. He stepped out, face tight with warning. What's going on here? He asked, already knowing the answer. Nothing, Ryan muttered. Harris walked toward them. You all think this is a game? 5 against 1? You're lucky. I showed up. Ryan's crew scattered fast. Chase mumbled something, but no one stuck around to hear it. Only Jaden stayed still, hands still loose at his sides, breath steady. Coach Harris looked at him. Long and hard. You've been trained, he said quietly. Jaden didn't respond. You didn't start this, Harris added. But how it ends, that's on you now. Jaden nodded once, then turned around and walked away. Not because he was scared, but because even now, even after all that, he still hadn't broken his promise. Not yet. The next morning, Jaden woke to the sound of his mother crying. It wasn't loud, just soft, broken sounds from the kitchen, like she was trying not to let it out, but couldn't hold it anymore. He stood in the hallway, unseen, listening. Then he saw it. The window in the kitchen had been shattered. A brick lay on the floor beside the broken glass. There was a note tied to it with black string. Jaden. Picked it up carefully, unfolding the paper. Fight or lose everything. No more running. His mom turned and saw him holding it. Her eyes were red. We're leaving, she said, her voice shaky but firm. Pack your things. We'll be gone before sundown. Jaden didn't answer. His mind was somewhere else. That night, after pretending to sleep, he slipped out of the house. He went back to the address, back to Kelly's gym. Only this time, someone was already waiting for him. A black SUV parked outside. Tinted windows. Engine running, Jaden hesitated. The back door opened. Get in, said a deep voice from inside. He didn't want to. Every bone in his body told him not to. But he did. Inside, the air smelled like expensive cologne and leather. The man beside him was dressed in a black suit, sharp jawline, silver cufflinks, and an unsettling calm in his voice. You look just like him, the man said without turning. Your father. Same posture, same stubborn silence. Jaden's jaw tensed. Who are you? Victor Kane, the man said. Your father worked for me. Before he forgot his place. Jaden's fists curled. You had him killed. Kane gave a small smile. That's one version of the story. Jaden said nothing. Kane continued. Look, I know what you've been doing. I saw the footage from that parking lot. Your instincts are sharper than I expected. Controlled, focused. That kind of discipline is rare. I'm not interested, Jaden said flatly. You don't even know what I'm offering. I don't care. Kane turned to look at him then, eyes cold and measured. You're living in a rented house. Your mother's barely making ends. Meet. You're suspended from school. People think you're violent, dangerous. He leaned in closer. Why not be exactly what they fear? Because I'm not a puppet, Jaden said, and I'm not my father. Kane chuckled. No, you're better, and that's why I'm not asking. I'm telling. Jaden stared at him. Kane's smile faded. You'll get a call with instructions. One fight. Prove yourself. After that, you'll have options. Or you can refuse and see what happens to your mother, your house, your reputation. The SUV pulled up back near Jaden's block. Kane looked out the window. The world isn't fair, Jaden, but it does reward those who take control of it. The door opened behind him. A silent driver gestured for him to get out. Jaden stepped onto the pavement, fists clenched. As the SUV pulled away, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. Friday, 8 p.m. Warehouse. Don't be late. The next morning, Monica was already packing. When Jaden came downstairs, we're going to your aunt's. Tonight, she said, not looking at him. I called her. We'll be safe there. No, Jaden said. She froze. What? I'm not running anymore. She turned slowly. Jaden, this isn't about pride. This man, Kane, he's powerful. He plays dirty. We can't beat him. I'm not going to beat him, Jaden said. I'm going to expose him. How? She asked, desperate. He owns everyone. Police, judges, maybe even the school board. You don't know what you're walking into. Jaden reached into his pocket and took out the photo of his dad. He tried to walk away. He tried to protect us, but they hunted him down anyway. What's the point of hiding if they find us no matter what? Monica stared at the photo, tears brimming in her eyes. You're all I have left, she whispered. I can't lose you, too. You won't, he said softly. But I need to do this, my way. She sat down slowly, as if her body had given out. For a long time, neither of them said anything. Then finally, she nodded. That evening, Jaden met with Emily and Ethan behind the school. He told them everything. Emily listened, arms crossed, eyes stormy. So you're fighting in some kind of illegal match for this Kane guy? Not for him, Jaden said. Against him. Ethan looked scared but also amazed. So, what's the plan? Jaden pulled out a small voice recorder from his pocket. Get Kane to talk, just enough to expose the truth about my dad. His death. This whole ring. You're not going to be able to record that in a fight, Emily said. Too much noise, too risky. That's where you come in, Jaden said, turning to Ethan. You're good with tech, right? Ethan nodded slowly. Then help me set up something better. For the next 2 days, they worked in secret. Jaden trained behind closed doors at the old gym with Coach Harris, who had quietly returned after hearing what was happening. I trained your dad, Harris said one night. He was good, but he was fighting for survival. You're fighting with purpose. That makes you more dangerous. Jaden didn't reply. He just kept training. No wasted moves, no emotion, just control. Friday night came fast. The warehouse. Kane Cho's looked abandoned from the outside, but inside it was buzzing. People in suits. Expensive cars outside. Security everywhere. Champagne bottles. Private seating, and a cage in the middle. Jaden stepped inside, hoodie pulled low, heart steady. Across the ring, his opponent stood waiting. Not a student, not a bully. A real fighter, taller, heavier. Scar across his face, a man trained to break people. Kane watched from above, eyes locked on Jaden. Then he raised a glass and gave the signal. The bell rang, and Jaden moved, not with fear, but with purpose. Because this wasn't just about fighting, it was about finally ending the thing that destroyed his family, one round at a time. To be continued. The warehouse wasn't loud at first, it was quiet. In that chilling way exclusive crowds fall silent before blood sport. The room was large, ring lights focused on the chain-link cage at the center. All around, expensive suits, sharp dresses, champagne glasses. People who smiled without warmth. People who paid to watch pain. Jaden stood behind a curtain, fists. Wrapped, hoodie up, heart steady, Ethan's voice came through the tiny earpiece hidden beneath the hood. Mic is hot. Signal's clean. We're recording everything. You've got this. Coach Harris, standing beside him, gave a short nod. Remember, control the rhythm. He's gonna come in fast. He's used to winning early. Jaden looked up at the lights. What if he doesn't talk? He will, Harris said. Kane doesn't know how to keep his mouth shut when he thinks he's already won. A booming voice echoed across the warehouse speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, the fight you've all been waiting for. The crowd stirred, cameras flickered. Kane stood from his private balcony above the cage, arms open like a proud emperor. In this corner, undefeated, unchallenged, and undeniably dominant, the destroyer, Dominic Reed. The crowd roared. A giant man stepped into the cage. 6'6", heavy build, arms like sledgehammers, tattoos covering his chest and neck. He didn't play to the crowd. He didn't need to. Just stared straight ahead. And in this corner, the announcer continued, his tone changing slightly. Our surprise addition, a rising name with a familiar legacy, Jaden Taylor. The rear. Applause wasn't as loud, mostly murmurs, curiosity. Jaden stepped into the cage and looked across at the man they expected to end him. From the corner of the cage, he caught sight of Kane, a slow, mocking clap. That smile, the same one Jaden saw in the SUV, cold, certain. The bell rang. Dominic charged like a bull. Jaden slipped left, barely. The punch hit air, followed by the groan of chain links as Dominic's fist slammed into the cage. The crowd laughed. Not with humor, with appetite. The fight continued. Jaden moving like wind, ducking and slipping. No flashy strikes, just control. But Dominic was trained too. He adapted. A sharp hook clipped Jaden's temple. He staggered. Cheers erupted. Kane leaned forward, voice sharp in Jaden's earpiece. There it is. Real pain. Now let's see what your legacy is worth, Ethan whispered. It's recording. We got him. Dominic followed up with a knee to the ribs. Another blow to the jaw. Jayden dropped to one knee, breathing hard. He wasn't faking. It hurt, but he was still calculating. From his crouch, he looked up at Kane. "Is this how you did it?" he shouted. Kane blinked. "Is this how you took my father out? Let him get tired, then buried him." Some in the crowd laughed nervously. Kane's voice came again, louder, unaware of the open channel. "Your father made his choice. He wanted out. There are no exits in my world, only graves." Ethan's voice cracked through. "That's it. That's what we needed. Stay alive. And get out." But the damage was catching up. Jayden's ribs ached. His vision blurred slightly on the left. He blocked another body blow, but barely kept his balance. Dominic raised both hands, taunting. "This all you got, legacy boy?" Jayden breathed deep, then shifted. His stance changed, subtly, but Coach Harris noticed. He whispered, stunned, "That's Carter's final form. Not flashy, just brutal efficiency." When Dominic rushed, again, Jayden didn't dodge. He stepped in. Twist, counter elbow to the temple. Dominic blinked, disoriented. Another step. Palm strike to the sternum. Dominic stumbled. Jayden was using momentum, not brute force, precision, timing. 2 more strikes. Low kick, spinning elbow. The crowd was on its feet. Dominic swung wildly. Jayden ducked, and with one final pivot, dropped the bigger man with a sweeping leg hook that sent him crashing. Silence, then a single, stunned cheer. Then more. The ref moved toward them, but Kane shouted from above, "No, one more round! This isn't over!" But Dominic wasn't moving. Jayden stood over him, breathing hard, battered. But standing, Kane was yelling now, red-faced, losing the perfect control he always kept. "You think this proves something?" he spat. "Your father was nothing, a tool, like you." Jayden turned and looked up at him. "My father died standing. I'll make sure you never sit easy again." Kane's eyes narrowed. He turned to leave the balcony. But then, blue and red lights flickered through the warehouse windows. Sirens, doors burst open. FBI, local police, tactical gear, floodlights. Chaos. Exploded. People screamed. Cameras dropped. Kane bolted toward the exit, only to be tackled to the ground by 2 agents. Ethan's voice buzzed in the earpiece. "They traced the IP, and your fight was live-streamed. The confession, the match, everything." Coach Harris rushed to the IIH cage, helping Jayden out through a side exit. "Come on, kid. You're done here." As they slipped into the night, Jayden looked back one last time. Kane was being shoved into a car, his mouth moving, face twisted. But no one was listening anymore. This time, he didn't get to control the story. Later that night, Jayden sat on his porch, wrapped in a blanket, ice pack on his ribs. Emily sat beside him, quiet. "They arrested everyone connected to the ring," she said softly. "Kane, the trainers, even a few board members. Turns out Ryan's dad was in on it too." Jayden didn't look surprised. "What about Ryan?" he asked. She sighed. "He's gone. Disappeared before the raid." Jayden looked out at the quiet street. "I'm tired of running," he whispered. Emily nodded. "Then stop. You didn't just survive, Jayden. You broke the chain." He leaned his head back, breathed in. The night air felt clean for the first time in years, but deep down he knew. This war wasn't over, because people like Kane didn't build empires alone. And if Kane had fallen, someone else, somewhere, was already getting ready to take his place. 3 weeks had passed since the night everything exploded. The warehouse, the arrest, the takedown that sent shockwaves through Ridgewood and far beyond. Victor Kane was in custody. Ryan's father, too. The underground ring they built was being picked apart by federal investigators. Names were surfacing. People in politics, sports, law enforcement. Men who had smiled for cameras while silencing boys in backroom cages. But Jaden wasn't smiling. He hadn't gone back to Ridgewood High. Not yet. His suspension was quietly erased. His name cleared. But something had changed inside him. The classroom felt too small now. So did the whispers and wide-eyed stares. Instead, he spent most of his time at the gym. Not the cage, the real gym, the one Coach Harris helped reopen. A community space, cleaned up, rebranded, filled with heavy bags and quiet strength. No crowds. No gambling. Just discipline, structure, purpose. On the back wall, next to an old framed picture of Coach Harris in his prime, hung another photo. Faded, creased, but sacred. Jaden's father, hands taped, standing in the ring, eyes focused, alive. That image had followed Jaden everywhere, from house to house. Now it had a permanent home. Not a reminder of tragedy, but of transformation. One afternoon, while Jaden was cleaning the mats, Coach Harris walked in holding a newspaper. "You're famous again," he said, tossing it onto the bench. Jaden glanced at the front page. A still, frame from the fight, him mid-dodge, Dominic swinging through empty air. The headline read, "Teen Fighters Battle Sparks National Crackdown on Underground Rings." He sighed. "I didn't want to be famous." "I know," Harris said. "But you wanted the truth. And the truth rarely hides quietly." Jaden folded the paper. "They're still out there, you know. Kane was just the tip. He answered to someone." Harris sat down beside him. "There's always someone higher up. That's how systems work. But you shook it, son. You hit something that never thought it could bleed." Jaden was quiet for a moment. "You think he'll talk?" "Kane?" Harris nodded. "Eventually, men like him only stay loyal until they need a deal. Once the fear kicks in, he'll sing." Jaden looked up. "And Ryan?" Harris's jaw tightened. "Last I heard, he's somewhere in Europe. His dad's money is still buying him time. But not peace. That kind of cowardice doesn't come cheap." Jaden said nothing. He wasn't angry anymore, not like before. What he felt now was different. Sharper, calmer, like steel cooling after the forge. Later that night, Jaden walked home through the old streets of Ridgewood. The town felt smaller now, softer, less threatening, the way it always could have been. Home, his mother was in the kitchen. The light above the table hummed gently. She was sorting papers, job offers finally, a call from her old firm, even a message from the local news station asking to interview her about her son. She looked up and smiled when Jaden walked in, a real smile this time, the kind that reached her eyes. "I saved your favorite," she said, pointing to a covered plate. Jaden took a seat, the smell of warm food filling the quiet room. It felt like the first normal moment they'd had in years. "You look tired," she said gently. "I'm okay," he replied. "Just thinking." She sat down across from him. "About what?" Jaden paused. "About what comes next." His mother studied him. "You don't owe anyone anything, Jaden. You did more than anyone ever asked. You could walk away, start fresh." He nodded slowly. "I know, but that's not what he would have done." She didn't ask who. She didn't need to. "I don't want revenge," Jaden added. "But I do want purpose. I want to use what he taught me. Not to fight, but to protect." His mother reached across the table and took his hand. "Then whatever you do next, you won't do it alone." The next day, Jaden received a letter. No return address. Inside was a photo. Grainy. A screenshot of Ryan, stepping out of a private jet in what looked like Switzerland. Dressed in new clothes, sunglasses, but unmistakable. Attached was a handwritten note. Some debts remain unpaid. You choose the day. There was no signature. Jaden stared at it for a long time, then folded the paper and tucked it away in his drawer. Not out of fear, out of timing. This fight, it was not today's. Weeks later, the gym officially reopened as the Taylor Center for Youth Discipline and Defense. It was named not just for Carter Taylor, but for what Jaden had become, a link in the chain that didn't break, but rebuilt. Kids from around town started showing up, some curious, some angry, some quiet in ways Jaden recognized all too well. He trained them the way his father trained him, not to hurt, but to hold back. Not to prove anything to the world, but to understand themselves better than the world ever would. Emily volunteered part-time, organizing reading programs and outreach. Ethan ran the social media page, which now had over 60,000 followers. His documentary series was picked up by an indie platform. One of the episodes, The Silent Fighter, featured Jaden's story, told without drama, without spectacle. Just truth. And it resonated. Because the story wasn't about violence. It was about knowing your strength and choosing when to use it. One evening, after the last class had ended and the mats were clean, Jaden stood alone in the center of the gym. He closed his eyes. The sounds faded. The weight of it all lifted, and for the first time in a long time, he wasn't running. He was rooted. Then, from the far side of the gym, Coach Harris spoke. "Funny thing about power," he said, leaning on the ropes of the small ring. "You don't really have it until you're strong enough to put it down." Jaden opened his eyes and smiled. Narrator voice for your video outro. Jaden Taylor didn't fight to become a legend. He fought to keep a promise to himself, to his mother, to the father he barely knew, but understood more with every move he made. Sometimes the strongest strike is the one you never throw. Tell us in the comments, what would you have done in Jaden's place? And what does strength mean to you? If this story moved you, share it, like it, and subscribe for more real-life stories that remind us all that silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's power waiting to speak.